welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Don't forget, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm gonna have a new interview, new opinion piece, or some new horror news for you to come and check out. And throughout the week, I'm still dropping countless reviews in the world of horror, whether it's movies, TV shows, games, books, whatever I'm fancying at this time here. You don't want to miss any of that, and the best way to stay on top of everything that I'm dropping here for my channel is to get subscribed to my link tree. You can do that by going to linktr.ee/tscarymovie. If you get subscribed to my link tree, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page, the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page, my written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page, my short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for my horror gaming, including The Thing Remastered and Phasmophobia for the PSVR 2, and to my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy my 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop, including a yearly subscription to the physical magazine. Take advantage of that, y'all. The more subscribers I have, more content I can put out for all of you. And don't forget, here in the month of November, we have our giveaway, which is going to be a copy of the novelization of X by author Tim Wagner. Folks, I've talked about this one here a lot, and I'm going to be dropping my review here sooner than later on this one. If you're a big fan of the movie X like I am, Tim Wagner's novel here does a great job on expanding on a lot of what these characters are going through in their heads while all these murders were happening and they were in the night of their lives. Folks, you cannot miss the novelization of X if you're trying to get the full story of what Ty West intended here to play out on screen. Tim Wagner also wrote the novelizations for Pearl, which just came out last week, as well as Magazine, which is set to come out, I believe, in February. So you don't want to miss a chance. Get a free copy of X. Just comment on any video here in the month of November. Get you entered here to win this. I'm going to draw this at the end of the month. So what are we talking about here tonight? We got a new review for y'all here to check out. I am finally getting around to a film that has been in my blind spot for a few months at this point. And yeah, I finally got some free time to go and check this one out. I am stoked about this one because I wasn't sure what to expect walking into it. I came in completely blind, and y'all, this movie, it is bloody, it is gory, it is brutal, but it also has another tremendous lead performance from one of our horror MVPs, and it's kind of biblical horror, which goes perfectly after me seeing Heretic recently and jumping back into the Dogma train. My head's just kind of made for religious horror right at this moment. Folks, tonight I am talking Azrael. But let's not waste any time. If you have not seen the trailer for Azrael before, this focuses on life on Earth after the rapture has occurred. Human beings are scattered around trying to live out their final days, and we focus in on this young woman who, along with her partner, has escaped the clutches of the cult that they resided in. But unfortunately for them, this cult is not so easily willing to let them go. And while Azrael and her partner try to navigate the woods to escape to safety, they find themselves also avoiding a group of beings known as the Burned Ones, beings out in the middle of nowhere who seek out those who are bleeding to tear them limb from limb and to eat the flesh off of their bones. Can Azrael successfully escape the only life that she has ever known, or will she find herself escaping one prison just to enter another one? And there it is, folks. That is Azrael. Now, first things off the back here, our filmmaking team. E.L. Katz and Simon Barrett's take on directing and writing duties here, and I've actually talked about some of their projects here on the show before. E.L. Katz directed the 2013 thriller Cheap Thrills, about the two gentlemen who end up with this depraved couple who keep paying them to raise the stakes in a series of dares. It is one of Pat Healy's best performances that he has ever put on film here before, and the way that that film just continues to get more and more depraved as we see what folks are willing to do when money is involved. Absolute insanity. Is a fantastic film. And Simon Barrett, on the other hand, there did one of my favorite horror films over the last decade in The Guest, but I would be remiss not to call out a film that I have very much mentioned being one of my favorites, if not the favorite in the entire franchise, Blair Witch. I found myself enjoying the most recent Blair Witch more than I did like the original film or Book of Shadows. I know everybody loves the original film, and we just got a new release for it that really like showcases the movie the way it was supposed to be presented in the first place. But the first film, in its uncertainty and the way it kind of like navigated around the supernatural elements, for whatever reason, just didn't stick right with me even as a kid. It didn't really offer that much in the way of scares, and I thought that Simon Barrett's take on answering a lot of those questions from the original film and actually deep diving into the supernatural that was featured in this Legend of the Blair Witch was the perfect way to expand this franchise. Big fan of that entry here. And so already the pedigree of the filmmakers behind this one had me deeply invested into it. And choosing to set a story after the occurrence of the rapture is also a very interesting like angle to come from as well too. I mean, I saw all like, cause like they set up through like title cards throughout the film, taking like text from biblical verses and putting that in the film to kind of explain, you know, where we're going next in the next course of the film itself. And to be honest, I did not realize that that was actually like telling us verbatim what was happening in this film as it went on. You know, there's at least a few movies out there, especially in recent memory, that to set up like the next act of the film, there's a Bible verse or it's taking something out of scripture to present on screen for all of us. And a lot of times it's very much about setting that mood, whether it's somebody who's going to be dealing with vengeance or somebody that's dealing with wrath or somebody dealing with some kind of ungodly curse that's placed upon them. Typically speaking, when that happens, it's not really supposed to be literal. So imagine my shock and surprise when I find out that no, all these verses and scriptures that we're seeing throughout the film, and it's not that much, but all of that is supposed to be taken like literally, like they are actually in the end times after the rapture. And that fascinates me so much because as a kid, I was obsessed with the idea of the rapture, y'all. Like I went through the Left Behind books, both like the ones for adults and like the young adult novels. Y'all, let me tell you right now, read Christian young adult like literature. That shit is just as scary as any horror film that you could possibly watch in today's day and age. They are ridiculous. But I was obsessed with the rapture as a kid, and there hasn't been that much in the horror space that's really covered that, which is so weird because there's been a lot of films that done a good job of like presenting like adaptations of that. Like I've long believed that Stephen King's The Stand is really supposed to be his take on the rapture, where this disease just wipes out millions and millions of people across the world, and those that are left are dealing between this climactic battle between a figurehead for good and a figurehead for bad. The Stand always seemed like it was supposed to be an adaptation of the rapture. So to see that in the modern age and played out the way that Katz and Barrett do here in Azrael was not something at all that I was expecting, especially just because the way that the film is paced out. We see Azrael escape from, you know, again, this cult that she's in. She gets recaptured. She escapes one more time. And the film is really about her trying her best to get away and eventually choose to seek revenge upon those who have brought her so much pain in her life. And again, I was not expecting this to actually like tell us the tale of things happening in like the biblical sense. And it works so well because the film doesn't actually try to hit you over the head with theology in the least bit. Like we get these cool title cards to give you the idea of what could be happening next to these characters. And that's about it. The film does not try at all to make you question the existence of God, of religion, about faith, about what you should believe in. None of that is the crux of this. And it makes a lot of sense because it is, for the most part, a film that is told without words. Not a silent film. It is absolutely not a silent film. There is some very important dialogue that somebody eventually will need to translate later on here in the after this film's long been out here on Shudder. But it's not a silent film in the least bit. But the theology a part of this is for sure one of the most interesting parts to me, just because again, I loved looking into that shit when I was younger. And so to get to see that play out, the question that obviously doesn't come back to me that came out with Heretic and talking about Dogma recently is whether or not Simon Barrett was here trying to kind of work through his own religious trauma or talk about some of the stuff that he might have believed in as a kid as well. Because I know how strongly the rapture affected me. That was the worst horror story out there as a kid. So I'm very curious whether Barrett was working through some things in this script. But to move it along here, again, we're seeing the majority of this story through the eyes of Samara Weaving, who you know is horror royalty for us, y'all. It does not matter that it might be what you would consider a small amount of credits Ash versus the Evil Dead, Ready or Not, The Babysitter 1 and 2, and sure, even Scream 6. All of this has shown that Weaving has a knack for picking out these horror projects that just do such a good job of showcasing her. I know that there's always going to be a bit of a back and forth on Scream 6. I am personally a fan, and regardless of whether you're a fan or not, that beginning in Scream 6 is so good. I talk about it in my review that I thought that between Scream 5 and Scream 6, we got such an amazing way for Roger Jackson to really stretch out like his vocal work as Ghostface, and more in 5 than he got to in 6. But I thought that opening was one of the most original ones that we got to see. Samara Weaving has to do so much in this film because the movie is not a silent movie, but she surely doesn't say a single word in it. And in films like that, it is very much up to your cast to be able to emote and tell so much just through facial expressions and body language. And Samara Weaving is more than up for the challenge here in this film. She is a phenomenal lead, and she has shown in a number of films prior to this here already that she's willing for her characters to get the shit absolutely kicked out of them. And Ready or Not was rough. Ready or Not was absolutely rough, seeing what Grace went through in that film, but seeing what Azrael goes through here in Azrael is like a step above. Like, she would look back at Grace and Ready or Not and be like, oh, I'd love to go to a wedding, compared to what she's dealing with here in this film. And I love that because it shows that she's okay with vulnerability and okay with not having to come out looking like just this god. Like, yeah, nothing phases me at all. Because like, no, like, she does get beat up, she does get hurt, she does get damaged, and I think that's a great way to continue building that character arc when you can't really say all that much. Now, the design of the burned ones, these creatures, demons, lost souls, whatever you want to call them, that are like living in this community surrounding this cult. We don't get a lot of backstory surrounding them, honestly, because again, there's really not much in the way of dialogue here in this film, but the cult does seem to have some kind of history, some kind of recollection here with these beings, with these creatures that's played out. There's a very, very deeper meaning that's there, and these things are terrifying. And maybe it's because of the setting that it's fairly easy to kind of look at them and see like a comparison to like the cave dwellers in The Descent, because that they do very much seem kind of like that. They are really good climbers. They're really quick as well. There's some similarities there for sure, but they are driven by something completely different. And it was very interesting watching at the beginning of the film, at least, the drive and desire that these creatures had due to just simple blood, and looking at that as like a rule to show how our characters could get around and escape their clutches and make it out alive was a very tense and terrifying moment for sure towards the beginning of this film. It is bloody, it is gory. Characters for sure come back to get their comeuppance in this. Anybody that's being an asshole in this one for sure will pay for it by the end of the film. You better believe that. Honestly, again, I wasn't shocked by the gore that came out, because if you've seen some of the stuff again that E.L. Katz and Simon Barrett have done in their past before, they're clearly very comfortable with the idea of it in doing these big bloody affairs. And here in Azrael, everything just looks like it hurts so much. Like, you feel everything that's happening to these various characters, and that's the sign of some great cinematography and some great special effects in this one for sure, y'all. Now, will I say that the ending was entirely successful for this one? Because, as I said earlier, it very much begins to shift itself into a revenge story by the time that the film is done. And like the execution of that works out very well, but I thought that the way that it's kind of built up with Azrael and everything that she goes through throughout the length of this film, and what she chooses to return onto those who have inflicted it on her, well, that was great. I thought that the way that the ending played out might not really settle necessarily with what she herself is deserved, because the idea typically is that if you go through trials and tribulations like this, you have not maybe be a reward at the end, but you have a bright light at the end of the tunnel. And that could be very much tied in with the religious imagery here that Azrael tries to tell us as well too, that if she's able to either escape or exact vengeance upon her captors, that she'll be rewarded with something more glorious at the end. And maybe she does ultimately get that, depending on your take of the ending of this film. But it very, very much, without jumping too deep into spoiler territory, felt like she was escaping one kind of enslavement, one kind of prison, and jumping into another one, because we still have to consider the world that Azrael occupies as we speak. And you know, another reason why I found myself kind of second guessing what the film is really trying to tell us and whether it really is set in the end times is because of one poignant moment that happens about halfway through before Azrael has an encounter with another cultist holding a gun. And I don't want to spoil it because I want you all to see it, 10-year rule and everything. But if you know what I'm talking about, and there's a little music involved with it, that'll hopefully give you the hint on it there. I enjoyed that quite a bit, but it kind of sets itself on odds with what's the apparent setting of this film. And that's why I found myself questioning whether or not that's actually the truth, or maybe this might be a situation kind of like The Village, or kind of like Wrong Turn, the most recent one back in 2021, to where it's more so about like this group of people running their own community out in the middle of nowhere, and you know, people just accidentally keep stumbling into it and bad shit continues to happen. Who knows? But it's not lost on me that with this whole religious tint over it as well too, that the power is both given and taken away from the women that we see in this story, that they very much seem to be very much in charge. But of course, it's a lot of the men who are rising up to oppress them again and put them down and inflict all this pain and terror upon them, and that certain women are just complacent with that. A lot of that very much seems to invoke like the environment that we live in today's day and age when it comes to religion and the rights of people that they have out there. But who knows? Maybe I'm just looking too deep into things. Y'all can check out Azrael right now on Shudder. It is one of my favorites of the year. It is a succinct story that, again, is brutal, it's gory, it's bloody, but we get one of the continued best performances by Samara Weaving here, leading off another horror film for us. She is royalty officially at this point, y'all. You can check this one out on Shudder right now, and I want to know in the comment section what you thought here of this film. Let me know for a chance to win the novelization of X. Gonna draw that at the end of the month, and hit that subscribe button as I got more great reviews coming y'all's way. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new one. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared. Boy here is a big fan of Fangoria. So if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022, and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription, or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.